Hi everybody, how are you? Put my tea down. I'm there we go. Hope everybody can see me okay. If Henry gets too panty, I might have to open the window up for him because he's gonna be like loud. Between him and my pig snoring, it might get a bit noisy. So I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to answer more questions for you guys, and I hope everybody's doing okay and staying hopeful and you know, just supporting each other. And like I keep telling you guys, I'm here for whatever I need to be here for. It doesn't always have to just be animal related stuff. I can, you know, like I sure don't know everything, that is for darn sure. But I definitely have strong views. I you know, and it's nice to hear different views and then listen to other people's views. I know when I have my clinic, that was massive for me, was to give my opinion, to give education, science-based knowledge, and then tell people to go and look for other stuff, right? And then you make your choice on your own informed decision, like or for the information that you've gotten, rather than taking one person's word or whatever. So it's really nice to be able to access all kinds of people and get everybody's information and on stuff that's going on. So yeah, all right. So this is a ask me anything. So I'll shut up now and
we have a bunch already, Jules.
I know, I see that. I'm wondering what the hello, I'm wondering something, but I don't know what it is. But are you just gonna ask? Did you want to tell her to put it in the chat if that's a question?
Well,
Question.
yeah, Deb just asked. I'm wondering what the difference is between Phytophthora and love bugs. So maybe you could talk a bit about our probiotics.
Phytophthora and love bugs.
Yeah.
Okay. I hope I'm not gonna have to get my earbuds if he starts barking. Okay, they're very different. They're very Henry, just okay, lovey. They're really different, and they are. You know what? I'm gonna be totally preoccupied. I gotta let him out. Sorry, guys. Oh no, he's gonna go lie down. Are you gonna lie down, or you want to go out? Do you need to go outside? Come here. I'm gonna freeze. Hold on, guys. Sorry.
Sorry,
guys. He was protecting me from a crow. Okay, so the difference is, there's a big difference. So when we look at probiotics in general, I am of the philosophy that 2 or 3 different strains or one strain is sometimes can be as detrimental as having no strains or not using probiotics at all. So when I first started Love Bugs, I made sure that there was at least 14 strains, which there is, and I handpicked them as what strains did what. So some were more for the different bacteria in ears, for ear infections, skin, bladder, immune, all the stuff that I saw at my clinic. And that combinations of species worked incredibly well for me for a really long time. And then I started really trying to figure out, the more I was looking into probiotics and doing it more and more. I guess I was researching it for about 22 years, and then 3 years now, or 4 years now, I guess. I was asked by a vet student when I was doing a lecture at PEI University, which is the vet university in Canada, on gut health, and she said, "Is it true that we only use human strains of probiotics for dogs and cats?" And I said, "Yes, that's true." And she said, "Well, why do we do that? And wouldn't it be better to isolate strains from each species?" And I said, "Well, it definitely would be better. And the only reason that we haven't done it is because no one's done it yet. No one's done that research." So Phytophthora is basically love bugs, and it's got those 2 different species oriented canine strains in them. And then it has fulvic and humic acid. And fulvic and humic acid is a mineral. They're minerals that are ancient. They're thousands of years old, and they have all kinds of stuff They help the permeability of the gut, so they help to repair the gut lining. They're a heavy metal detox, and then they provide probably 80 types of minerals that we can't even get anymore, and we can't replace them synthetically either, which is really cool. It has to be natural. So yeah, that's the difference between Phytophthora, and Phytophthora has love bugs in it, so it's got the 14 strains plus the larch plus that. So hope that answers your question.
Okay, wonderful. We have a lot of questions here. 28. Yay. Sarah wants to know if you could talk a bit about urinary issues. She doesn't specify that. That was just a pretty broad question.
For dogs or cats, or just in general?
I would think she didn't specify.
She can cat. Oh, cats. Yeah. Okay, so that's a really cool subject, actually. So yes, I can. I would first of all, any urinary tract issues with dogs or cats are often triggered by the acidity level not being species specific. So by them eating dry food, or by eating a food that increases the pH in their urine. So their urine becomes alkaline instead of acidic, and then they can form crystals like stirvite crystals and stuff like that. Now, cats are very interesting because cats wind up saying that they have bladder infections a lot, and they go on a lot of antibiotics, and then they have this terrible dysbiosis, and then it has this, this hamster wheel. But cats, I have found in practice, have a lot of something called interstitial cystitis, or non-bacterial cystitis. And that is where the lining of the bladder, it's really, really, really painful. It's when the lining of the bladder becomes inflamed. So they present like they have a bladder infection, and but they don't have a bacterial bladder infection. They have a non-bacterial or a interstitial cystitis, and that can be treated. I think it's very, very, very stress induced, or it's antibiotic that maybe they had either stirvite crystals, or which created lots and lots of inflammation, or they've had antibiotics, and then the antibiotics have changed the pH of the bladder and of the urine, and then that creates almost like a chronic inflammation of the bladder lining. Now, it can be treated and worked with in my experience. That's why I created Easy Peasy. It's a lifesaver for cats with chronic bladder infections, like a lifesaver. And N-acetylglucosamine is like glucosamine for joints, only N-acetylglucosamine is for smooth muscles. So bladder lining, the lining of the bowel, the lungs, the sinus cavities. It's in Gut Soothe. It's in our Easy Peasy, and particularly for that. The other thing with cats that block, which is just a terrible, terrible pathology to have to deal with all the time. That is an interesting one. It's because that happens because most cats do have stirvite crystals. Many, 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 many cats have them, and they have sort of ouchy pees all the time because their urine is too alkaline, and they aren't getting enough water, and they're dehydrated because they're eating dry food, and even if they're drinking lots of water, they don't absorb water the same way we do. So they're always too alkaline. They produce these crystals. But because a female's cat urethra is short and wider, they just pee the crystals out. But male cats, when they're neutered, especially when they're neutered young, and it's going to be a massive problem with young spay and neuters, when they're neutered, their urethra stops growing. So even though the cat grows, the urethra stays really small and really tiny. And then when they urinate, the crystals are like little crystals, and they scratch the urethra, and then they inflame the urethra, and the urethra becomes narrow. and then it really hurts and it becomes really inflamed, and then it spasms. And then when it spasms, they can't pee at all. And then everyone's heard of blocked cats that have cats, which is a life-threatening problem because they can die from it because they literally can't urinate. And lots of times they go in, if you have cats that block, speak to your veterinarian when you go in and ask them if they can do antispasmodics and massive pain meds before they try. They would always try to catheterize them, and then they would catheterize them, and then they scratch the urethra even more, and then it scars, and then the urethra becomes even smaller, and then it's this chronic thing. And sometimes they have to have surgery to remove their penis for real, and so that they can pee all, but then they pee all the time. Anyways, it's a nightmare. So for anybody that has cats that do block, you could ask your vet to try first with antispasmodics and massive pain meds, and rather than doing catheter. So keeping your cat well hydrated by giving it species-oriented food or canned food, but definitely not dry. If you have a cat with an issue, making sure that you're using stuff like cranberry and slippery elm and marshmallow root and N-acetylglucosamine, all the stuff that makes the lining less inflamed.
Okay, perfect. I have Lisa Tong has a question here. Can you tell me more about the Lyme nosode borrelia? I'm probably not saying that right. Made from the Lyme tick, and can I give it as a preventative to my 10-year-old cat?
You can. Yep, you can. You don't want to give it too often, and I would only be giving it if you're in a high tick area. And you can, as a preventative, you can give it even, once every 2, depending on how many ticks you're finding. So if you're finding a lot of ticks, you want to be doing it probably every 10 days to 2 weeks over the course of the summer. If you're not finding that many, but you have them, you could be doing it once a month. But you can. Yep, I know lots of people that do that. And then if you do find a tick on your animal, the best course of action is aconite, arnica, and ledum. And you do it every 2 hours for 3 doses, and then you do ledum twice a day for the next 3 days. And if you can get high doses, like high potencies, like 1 m's of that. But the best way to support any body, animal, person, it doesn't matter, is the immune system, because there are millions of dogs and millions of cats and millions of people every day being bitten by ticks. And Lyme disease is a very, very real, undiagnosed disease that can be thought of as with people like MS and all kinds of, it's misdiagnosed, depression, anxiety, arthritis, like the list goes on and on. But the number one way to avoid the bacteria or the protozoa to take over or not be able to overcome your body or your animal's body is when your immune system is low. So supporting the immune system, keeping your animal as strong as you possibly can, helps more than anything to avoid them getting Lyme disease.
Okay, amazing. We have Julie G, who is asking, most of your products have just one general serving size. Does weight of the dog not matter for most of your products?
They all have serving size except for Phyto's Flora and the homeopathics. So all the powders have serving size per weight. And then Phytosynergy doesn't. Phytosynergy basically has the same amount for all animals. And that's because it goes by how many cells is in it and not by medicinal amounts of milligrams. So there's 250 million cells in an eighth of a teaspoon, or a 16th of a teaspoon, I mean. And that is enough to give to a large breed dog or a person. And it's not too much to give to a cat. So what happened for me when I started to do that, I decided to do that because it's not going to be harmful to give a lot more to a kitty or a small dog, but it will definitely pack the punch that I wanted it to have at that level for everybody. I know it sounds crazy, but it's because it's a unique product. There's nothing else like it that I have. Nothing else like, in my opinion, in the world. Phytoplankton is a very different product. So that's one. And then the homeopathics is another thing. So homeopathy is very different. Like it's a lot of times it's the same amount for everybody. And that's because it's energy medicine. So when you have something like milk thistle and you want X amount of milligrams per pound or per kilo, that's because there's a medicinal amount that needs to be measured. When it comes to whole food like phytoplankton, or you don't have to worry about that. And then when it comes to homeopathy, it's energetic medicine, so that also doesn't apply. It's how you measure homeopathy is how often you give it, and by whether it's a C, an X, or an M. And it still would be the same amount, but it's higher potencies, which are used for different things. And it's repetition. So if you were to give it, like I said, acutely to try to derail Lyme, if you possibly could, it can, you would give it really close together often. And that strengthens the vibration of giving the medicine or the remedy to enhance its intensity, it's the acuteness of the problem. Whereas when you're doing something like gut seal in the leaky gut protocol, or you're doing anti-vaccinosis, or you're doing jump for joints, you're giving it more on a daily basis, so the animal can have pretty much the same amount.
Okay, excellent. Helena has a question here. Helena says, we adopted an 8-year-old lab last summer. She came to us overweight and full of yeast in her ears and feet. We switched her to a raw diet and started her on love bugs. Within 6 weeks, she was substantially better and has been maintaining fairly well, but still has the odd yeast flare-up. Do you have any suggestions to help her along even further?
I would do the Yeasty Beast protocol. If she's healthy and you're sure it's yeast, and you want to try and get sort of to the bottom of it, if she's on a low carb or no carb diet, and you're feeding a species oriented food, I would be doing the Yeasty Beast for sure, because the Yeasty Beast is really different than, you have to be careful because the more I'm learning about gut health, the more I feel like I know nothing, even though I've been researching it for 22 years. We are skimming the surface about that. And sometimes when I created Yeasty Beast, I learned that a lot of times when we give probiotics and we give too many probiotics, or we ramp up the immune system, what we do is we get a Hicks-Meyer reaction. And what that is that when the yeast dies off too quickly, it looks like the exact same symptoms as your dog but has yeast. So it winds up getting quite sick, and then you take it to the vets, and then they go, oh, it's on, it's yeast. So they give it ketoconazole, or they give it more, they have to give it secondary antibiotics for secondary infections, things like that. And then you go in this vicious circle again. So what happens is that when you don't give any probiotics and you use the products that are in yeast abuse, like Podarco and caprylic acid, and the special enzyme, it targets the yeast, and it starts to slowly eat away at the yeast rather than just killing it. Because yeast, when it's alive, it has 15 really, really brutal toxins, one of them being acetone, which is like nail polish remover, which makes it what's really raw and things like that. But when they die, the skeletal system of the yeast produces something like 5 to 10 times the amount of toxins. So the animals can get quite sick if you try to kill yeast too quickly. So, which can happen when you give them tons and tons of just probiotics. So for this dog, I would try the Yeasty Beast. I always tell people to start off with half a dose and then go forward. And then if it works and everything's good, then I really recommend they do a leaky gut protocol. Because if you were to see yeast under a microscope, oh my gosh, they're so scary looking. They have these like talons that just make a mess of the lining of the gut, a mess. So it's really great to then just go through a leaky gut protocol to make sure, or you could go on to Phytosflora because it's got the humic and fulvic acid to help to repair the permeability of the gut lining. Okay.
Yay. Sandra says, do you have a recipe for natural tick repellent? Is there anything we can add to their food to make them less appealing to ticks? I think we talked a little bit about this
Yeah.
today or yesterday.
I again, just keeping their immune system really, really, really strong. And what I used to do, you know what, we have so many ticks here, it's just insane. I bought a bunch of guinea hens last year, and they're the best things that investment I ever made in my whole life, that and my generator. But when I was in BC, I used to get people to make a mixture of water, lemon juice, lavender oil, and what else? And lavender oil. That was it. And then I would put grapeseed oil in it and shake it all up, and I would leave it in the fridge and tell people to spray their animals before they took them out in the woods. And then when they came home, brush the animal and whatever, cat, dog, horse, whatever you were taking. And what happens is the oiliness, first of all, the smell, the ticks don't like it, but the oiliness, what you're really doing is you're putting oil on their coat so that when you're combing their coat, the ticks don't have a chance to quickly run up their coat. So their coat is kind of oily, so that when they come home, you flea comb them. That is like the biggest thing. You flea comb them and just really, really check, and you catch the ticks in the flea comb. That's the best way to do it, is just comb and keep checking and checking and checking. Keep their resistance really strong by their immune system, because there's really nothing that, I mean, I know that Wonderside, they say that they have a flea. I know their flea products work really great, except for you have to be very, very careful with cats. I had a cat that didn't respond very well to it at all, but they do work. It does work incredibly well when it comes to fleas on dogs. And I've heard that it works really well with ticks too, but I don't know. It's a touchy situation. I've seen ticks go through everything. I've seen dogs that you're using tick products on, like from the vets, and they still get ticks.
Many, many moons ago when I used to give that, yep, my dog got ticks.
Yeah.
Allison has a question here. I'm on my second bottle of Phytosynergy. I know it's a complete food, the single most powerful antioxidant and a sustainable source of omega-3. My question is, since I feed Phyto, do I need to give omega-3? I think she's asking if she needs to give another source.
Yeah. So I'm in the middle of doing a study on that. So, because I have had so many people say that it's not, and it is, and it's not, and it's like it's just gone back and forth, and no one's actually done a study. And because I'm such a science nerd, I'm like, okay, I'm done. I feel like it's an incredible source of omegas, but I have a completely weird, nerdy philosophy of why that is. And I'm also very, very anti fish oil to a point because of our oceans, right? Not that it's bad. Well, some of them aren't great, but if you buy a good source, like a really good source of fish oil, and you know the company, then everyone's always, well, it's all rancid and stuff. It's not all rancid. The really cheap ones and whatever can be very rancid. So you would just make sure that you bought a really good quality fish oil. And what I would do is I would alternate them. So if you can financially afford to do both, then I would, put it on oil for a month and then take them off oil for a month, or do three months of oil and then and then 3 months off the oil, and then keep them on the phytosynergy all the time. If you can't afford to do that, then I would alternate it. I would do one thing of phytosynergy and then one thing of oil and then one thing of phytosynergy. At least that helps to decrease the amount of fish that's being fished. So the sustainability part. But the difference is that fish oil doesn't provide the minerals and the superoxide dismutase and like all the amazing things that like chlorella, all that stuff that phytoplankton does. So yes, I think until I come out with this study, what I would do is I would alternate them, or just add fish oil, and maybe you don't need nearly as much, maybe just half the dose of fish oil that they recommend, or rotate it.
Okay. Jody has 2 questions here, but I'm just going to answer one for now. My dog has developed cauliflower warts on his eyelid and muzzle. The one on his eyelid is fairly large, the size of a pomegranate seed. I wanted to treat it with thuya, as that has worked well for me. I was wondering if your anti-vaccinosis would be appropriate.
Could be. It could be, but is it the same dog that's getting them all the time, that keeps getting them?
Yeah, it sounds like her dog.
Because that's not normal. There's something, I would say there's something underlying, because usually when they get, sounds like papilloma, I can't diagnose and I don't know, and I'm not allowed to do that on this. So I would be really wondering, like, if the dog had it and then you gave it thuya and it went away, and then now she's got it back, or he's got it back again, that's something about that would be telling me there's something going on with your dog's immune system, because papillomavirus really, again, should only be happening when they're super, super stressed. Happens a lot when they go to kennels, a lot. Or when their immune system is really, really low. So I would be looking at something to build their immune system, and I would be looking at their definitely looking at their gut, right? Because more than 80% of the immune system comes from the gut. So either they've got leaky gut syndrome, and that's affecting their immune system, or they're, I don't know, they don't have enough live food, they're not getting enough antioxidants, but something is that's not normal to have to, that they keep getting it.
Okay. Here's a question from anonymous attendee. Hi. Hi, Julie. Hope you are well. My boys have been using your product, Feline Gut Soothe. They both have suspected IBD. We started them on a homemade diet of rabbit and have just started using Hillary's Blend supplement. Sadly, the supplement has a prebiotic, which means I may not be able to use the Gut Soothe anymore. Do you have any suggestions on what we could do for a probiotic? I love your products and I'm sad that we may have to stop using them.
So I'm going to go on to another question, because I'm going to ask her to, I don't understand why she wouldn't be able to use it.
I think because it has a prebiotic and ours also has a prebiotic.
That doesn't matter.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
use different kinds of prebiotics. Um, there's also, I don't know whether Dr. Tobias's, he has something called soul food, and I can't honestly tell you whether it's for cats and dogs or just dogs, but it's a whole food rather than having synthetics in it. So I would contact him and just say that you were doing an Ask Me Anything with me, and that be able to replace Hillary's blend? Because I always recommend using a non-synthetic product that that if you can, using a whole food product to balance a diet rather than a synthetic.
Okay. Amanda D says, "Hi, Julie. I'm wondering what I can give to support my spayed female for hormonal support. She's 4 years old and was spayed at 1 year of age after having one heat. She does have some leaky urine at times. Thanks."
Oh, 4 years old, she's leaking urine?
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay. Well, I would have said our spay and neuter, but we can't get it in anymore. The FDA stopped us bringing it over from Scotland, which sucks. But Kaylin, can you put it in the chat, or can someone put Andrea Ring's information in the chat? I have a very good friend, a colleague in Vancouver, and she has a she has the spay and neuter now that I used to use. It's a really it's really amazing, and she can get it because she sells it to people individually rather than we're not allowed to do it commercially like we do. So did Kaylin, did you know if someone put Andrea's information in the chat? Kaylin?
Sorry. Her website, yes, her website is listed in the
Our
chat.
website, and okay, good. So that I would do that. And then Dr. Karen Becker with Mercola, she has she's got a hormone support for males and female dogs, like 2 different ones. That one's really good. And I love phytoplankton for that because it's got the most amazing profile of amino acids. And amino acids are vital for anyone that's going through menopause, or which is what kind of happens very fast when they get spayed. Any kind of hormonal, thyroid, everything. These amino acids are incredible. So I would say, yeah, that's it. Dr. Peter Tobias Soul Food. That's the one I was talking about. So I would definitely look at Andrea's. I would look at that. And then the other thing is protein, right? Like really good, clean protein. I have changed animals' diets that have been incontinent and increased their protein levels. And because the sphincter is a muscle and the muscle needs protein. So, and that helps a lot too. And if she's 4 years old, just make sure that her protein levels are adequate, and also that the protein levels that she's eating is working for her. So look at her muscle all over. Does she have good muscle definition around her back, on her legs? Because if she doesn't, then that might mean she's not absorbing her protein properly, which then I would be looking at her gut.
Okay. Grace has a question.
Okay.
I was hoping you could tell me why my dog's skin is turning black. It seems to happen in the spring. I'm assuming it's environmental. What is the best way to handle it?
Well, it usually turns, I mean, that could be a gazillion things. Yeast can do that, allergies can do that, environmental can do that, scarring can do that, them itching and then scarring the top layer of the skin. Some dogs' skin then turns black. So there's different reasons for that. But whatever it is, the underlying cause for me would be to be detoxifying the liver big time. So making sure that the dog's gut is healthy and liver are the two, because histamine can cause allergic reactions to pollen and grasses and funguses and mites and all that stuff. So you want to make sure that you're like quercetin, our liver tonic, and I would, if it, you know what I always say, is it on a species oriented diet? One. Is it, if it's every spring, then it would sort of hold true that it might possibly be environmental. So then I would be looking at, you could either try the leaky gut, which goes through the whole thing, or because it also has liver tonic, or why don't you just try the Phytosflora liver tonic and Phytosynergy, those 3 products, and let us know what happens.
Okay.
Am I getting too dark? I need to turn on a light.
You're a little dark.
Am I?
Yeah.
Should I turn the light on, you think?
Probably. You're starting to fade out there.
Fade away. Okay, hold on. Sorry. I can hear you.
Okay. Well, Marilyn has a question. Marilyn says, best detox and recovery protocols for dog just diagnosed with Pyometra and had emergency surgery with both uterus and ovaries taken. She was on antibiotics about 6 days, just on love bugs, and I can never say this. Chlorella. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
It's been 3 weeks, 3 days since surgery.
3 weeks, 3 days, and Pyometra surgery. And what is she asking for? What?
Just a detox and recovery. What's your best recommendations?
Well, if she was on antibiotics, then I would be doing Phytosflora. If she was really toxic, which happens with Pyometra, they do get really, really toxic. In that case, I would do, with the Phytosflora, because it's got the fulvic and humic acid, it'll pull like, it's a really good detoxifier. It's almost like a clay, but it's got all these amazing qualities on top of it. So I would do Phytosflora, liver tonic, and again, Phytosynergy, because you want to be able to make sure that her blood is clean. But I don't know, 3.5 weeks ago, I would also be doing homeopathics, right? I'd still be doing arnica. I'd still give her arnica, even though it's been 3.5 weeks. I don't know if you've done arnica. I would give her like 200C arnica, maybe twice a day for 3 days. And then another really amazing one to give her would be phosphorus. And you could do phosphorus 30C twice a day for 3 to 5 days as well. And that's phenomenal for helping rebuild her blood and amazing for liver, kidney, and pancreas detoxification. And the big thing is get her on the spay and neuter protocol. Get a hold of Andrea right away, because I know with my dog, she aged in front of my eyes. Like, she had Pyometra. She was 9, and she was a large, really, really big dog. But I think I said this before. I have like a princess in the pea bed, and my bed's really high. And from a standstill, she was close to 150 pounds. She could just jump from the ground right up onto the bed. And literally within a month and a half of her getting Pyometra and being spayed, I had to help her up in the bed. I mean, that's how fast she aged. So I would definitely be getting the spay and neuter protocol.
And that's Andrea Ring, and her information is in the chapter. Okay, so Donna Middleton. Hi, Donna. Hi. She asks, in reference to skin yeast and bacteria infections, would you use a topical application of probiotics to aid in getting it under control? along with addressing the internal issues at the same time,
Yes.
or one step at a time?
I would do, if it's bad, I'd do both. Like I would do them at the same time, for sure. People don't realize, like, we wash our dogs so much, especially when they have skin disease, because it's stinky and people don't want to touch them and stuff. And every time we do that, we're destroying the biodiversity of them. Like there's as many bacteria almost on the skin as a protective mechanism as there is in the gut. And every single time we wash them, we destroy that protective mechanism. So just love bugs and kefir, love bugs and yogurt. Make like a little mask, massage it in, leave it on as long as you can, 20 minutes, half an hour. If they lick it, it's not going to hurt them. And and then rinse it off. And you don't wash it off, you just rinse it off. And that, it really, really helps. The amount of people that have emailed me since I did that thing with Rodney Habib, I did a Facebook Live with him, and we did this thing. We made up a mask, and the amount of people that have contacted me and said, "Oh my God, it's made the biggest difference in my animal."
Okay, so Roman asks, is there such a thing as too many pre and probiotics? And I know you could talk about this for a long time.
Mm-hmm. I would, yes. And that's going to be, I got to do a thing on SIBO. I'm just trying to think. Can you guys still see me? Should I turn this way more? I don't know. It's getting dark. I'm on my porch. So I wrote a thing called the Overcultured Canine. And I think what happens is that when science tends to, or not science, the world, we find something good and we think if it's good, this is good, it's compartmentalized, it means more is better. And that's not true. So what happens is, if you do too many probiotics, in my opinion, right? So you're feeding massive amount of probiotics, and you're doing fermented veg, and you're doing a whole bunch of different stuff. We're loading the body up with probiotics, but we're not feeding the probiotics. So what winds up happening is that there's two different types of bacteria, transient and native. And your animals are born, and us, we're born with our native bacteria, our native strains and species, and they live in the lining of the gut, and they stay there all the time. That's their house, that's their home, it's their city. And then we get transient bacteria, which is the stuff that you eat or take. And then what that does is it comes in, does its job, and leaves. So you could think of that as the workers coming into the city. Now, they all have to eat. They all have to eat and procreate and things like that. So if we're not feeding a really good prebiotic, then what happens is that they starve. We're loading them in, but we're not feeding them. The transient ones, it's not so bad, but what winds up happening is that then the native ones, because they can't move, they start eating their house, and then their house is the gut lining. So you can actually cause leaky gut syndrome by feeding too many probiotics without the correct or the beneficial prebiotic. So that's why I don't make a probiotic without larch, without a prebiotic. In the wild, they would be eating the fermented contents of an animal's gut, and that would come along with the fiber that the animals chewed and swallowed. So then fiber is indigestible fiber, and non-digestible fiber is what the bacteria lives on. So it's not an issue in the wild, because they're eating that. They're eating fur, and they're eating skin, and they're eating all the stuff that is like that is a prebiotic, a natural prebiotic. So you have to be very careful, but you also have to be careful of the kinds of prebiotics that you're using, because some of them are very, very, very sugary based, and I don't find that they convert as easily with carnivores, with dogs and cats. So yes, you can overdo it. And yes, you can feed too many prebiotics if your animal has, or you have SIBO. So SIBO is small intestinal bacteria overgrowth. And it is when good bacteria from the large intestine somehow seeps up and gets into the small intestine. And then it feeds on, it explodes with non-digestible food. So you don't want prebiotics if you're dealing with SIBO. So it's complicated. So that's why you just want to balance it. I wouldn't feed a probiotic unless I was feeding a really good quality prebiotic with it.
Okay, perfect. Tamara has a question.
Okay.
She says, "Hey there, Jewel.
Hi. Hi.
Thank you for doing this.
You're welcome.
Yeast question. Can you talk about yeast infections in ears, particularly if how yeast may be exacerbated by feeding yeast, particularly fermented cow kefir? Have seen it become pronounced when given the latter."
Okay. I'm going to go grab my light. Hang on,
Okay.
guys. One more second. Sorry about that. I think if I put it here.
Oh, there we go.
You think that's better?
I think so. You'll have to sit, but I think that's better.
Hold on. I usually have another light set up and I totally forgot. Ooh, that's really bright.
That's better. You can
better
see.
though?
Yes.
I feel like I'm playing kind of outside, but okay, here, maybe if I go like this. Oh well. Is that better or not so better?
No, that's fine.
Better? Okay.
That's fine. Yeah, you can see now.
All right. So, okay. That's a yeast in ears are really they're tricky to get a hold on. But I've seen if you look at fermented, the fermented stuff, that's what I was talking about before, because the fermentation process, like eating something fermented, usually really, really helps yeast, right? And helps it, meaning helps to kill it. So you could be seeing a yeast die off too fast, or sometimes the yeast can be triggered especially with different dogs and how they react to stuff. But I think that, I mean, I don't know. For me with ears, and I'm not trying to recommend something. It's vital that you guys are using I think homeopathics when you're dealing with yeast, because yeast in the ears create so much damage to the canal that then what happens, that it inflames the canal, right? So then the canal becomes thinner. There's less oxygen going down in the canal. And then the yeast is like, Yahoo, this is what I love. Dark, smoldering, wet, not very much oxygen. I am just gonna procreate like crazy in this ear. This is like my perfect scenario for how I'm gonna live. So when I'm looking at ears, I do a few things. I mean, that you could definitely try the Yeasty Beast, definitely. But I also love using things like arnica, belladonna, kelp carb is a really great yeasty ear remedy. But try and use things that work homeopathically to decrease the swelling and the inflammation of the ear. And for me, that's arnica, aconite, and belladonna are the main ones, or even heifer sulf. So look at those remedies. I would start giving those remedies. Then something that I've used for a very long time, and wouldn't want to use it for long periods of time, is Zymox. And you can buy it on Amazon, and they have They have one with a steroid and without a steroid, and definitely get the one without a steroid, so the non-steroid one. And it's a type of enzyme that eats the yeast. And I don't like using it a lot, but sometimes when they're really, really bad, a combination of the yeasty beast, the homeopathic remedies, and Zymox, when they're really bad, it just derails it like crazy. And then once you've got a handle on it, then you can kind of take it from there when it comes to just food and things like that. But it's a really hard call. Like Billy Hoekman and I are friends, and we've talked lots about fermentation and not fermentation, and cow's milk and not cow's milk. Sometimes cow's milk in general, we have to be really careful of it. I mean, I won't use kefir if it's pasteurized. I don't believe in kefir if it's pasteurized. It has to be raw, in my opinion. And if it's not raw, then it would have to be goat kefir, because most kefir is made from Holstein cows, and Holstein cows have we were talking about this last time with Billy. The casing is able to seep past into the gut lining and create inflammation. So unless it's raw and grass fed, I wouldn't be doing too much with cow anything. And I would be going close, unless it's Guernsey or Jersey, predominantly Jersey. And then I would be also looking more for goat and sheep and smaller animals that have a different kind of casing. Does that answer the question?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
Yes. So, oops, sorry, I was typing an answer here. There was one here that I really wanted to talk about. Where the heck is it now? I'm so sorry. Oh, here we go. Brandy, my dog was diagnosed with osteosarcoma on Sunday in her left ulna. It has been recommended that she have surgery to remove the ulna only. How likely is it that it might spread to the rest of her leg and require additional surgery or amputation? But what would you recommend for specific diet and supplements?
Wow. That's why I wish my cancer study was over, because I'm specifically looking at osteosarcoma. I would do, first of all, you want to make sure that you take an x-ray of the lungs to make sure that it hasn't spread to the lungs. That would be ultimately the most important thing, because if it has, then you don't want to be taking off anything unless you're taking it off specifically for pain. That would be one. Two, I would be contacting either Andrea Ring. I did that and she's clear. Okay, good. How old is she? Can you type in how old she is and what breed she is real quick? Okay, so I would be contacting either Andrea Ring, that's been in the chat, and I know I'm talking about her a lot, but she's an incredible homeopath. And or Dr. Sue Armstrong. She's incredible too. She's in England. And I would be treating her homeopathically, a billion, trillion, million%. I would be feeding, if you do remove it, 10 years old mixed breed. Okay. So if it's really painful and they can take it off, then I don't think that's the worst thing. And the only reason I'm saying that is because pain increases cortisol, pain increases stress. If they can remove it and it is helps her be more pain-free for a longer period of time, and then you could get Andrea or Dr. Armstrong to get in there with remedies and do specific osteosarcoma remedies, which there are lots. There's protocols. I did a thing for Dogs Naturally magazine. I don't know if you belong to that, but if you do, I have a cancer course on the magazine, and I talk about how to work with osteosarcoma. But lots of phytosynergy, like tons and tons of phytosynergy, and lots and lots of phytophthora. Phytophthora, like I said, I want to do a thing about the health claims, and they talk about the shower effect and the immune modulating effect that they can now we can now say that phytophthora does with this specific strain, and how the waterfall effect of the immune modulating effect definitely affects cancer. So I would be from that perspective. I know lots of people do keto diets, and I'm on and off the fence about keto diets. I think if you're going to do one, you really got to work with someone that is really, really good. But I would be, then I would probably take it off. Make sure you talk to Andrea first so that she can give you post-operative remedies, and be on it with the homeopathic protocol. Lots of phytosynergy, and then I would try phytophthora, and then you can look at either a keto, what kind of, if you want to do keto or not. But whatever you do, if you can afford it and you can go that way, please make sure that the meats that you're feeding your dog is like ethically raised, is not farm factory raised, because the amount of cortisol and stress hormones that are in the meat can really contribute to cancer. So that would be, that's what I would be doing.
Okay, we are just 1 minute over, but I'm hoping we can sneak another question in quickly.
Okay.
Debbie, she's my neighbor, so I really would like
Okay.
to have your opinion. Hi, Debbie. My older female is drinking water a lot. What are your thoughts on that? Is there anything you would recommend that I check into?
Yeah, I would do blood work on her for sure. Again, what kind of food is she on? Is she on a species-oriented diet?
Home cooked.
Home cooked diet?
Home cooked, yeah.
Okay, not raw?
No, home cooked.
Okay, well, sometimes if she's older and she's on a home cooked diet and she's not getting grains, then I would be doing something called the geriatric panel, and definitely a urinalysis, and you need to be doing the urinalysis first thing in the morning, so that you get her first urine. Please don't do the blood work without the urine, because to me, you can't really say for sure. You need to have a urine test, because drinking lots of water can be anything from arthritis pain to kidney problems, to liver problems, to Cushing's disease. I mean, there's a million different things. So the first thing I would do is get some blood work done and a urinalysis.
Okay. Well, thank you, Julie, for that. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. I'm so sorry again. We still have
what are we
30.
Gonna do? You know what, you guys, do me a favor. Send Kaylin or send Adored Beast or whoever, send us a email and let me know what you would want to do, because I don't want to bore you guys by keeping you on for an hour and a half to try to get all the questions done. But it just seems to happen when I'm doing them that there's always a million questions left over. So what email address? Kaylin, what email address?
Questions@adoredbeast.com. So questions with an S at adoredbeast.com. That'll come right to me.
Yeah, and then let me know, because I'm going to, at the beginning of every month, I'm doing them by myself, right? So next week, you guys, we have the most fascinating speaker. I just adore her. I wish she lived here. Her name is Dr. Eyelid Fishburne. She's oh my God, she's just incredible. She's a behaviorist and a scientist and a wolf, works with wolves, and is, oh my God, she's just incredible. So I'm really super, super stoked that I'm going to be talking to her next week. So make sure that you try and tune in. And, but in the meantime, let Kaylin know, like, let her know, like, do you want me to do this for an hour and a half so that I can try to get through more questions?
Trudy says you could do it for 4 hours. That'd be great.
No, I'm serious. Can you, because
Yep.
I'm willing to do it longer. I'm willing to do an hour and a half to try to get through them because I feel terrible too not being able to answer everyone's questions. So let us know how you feel about that. And if you do want me to do that, then I would be happy to do that.
Okay, and somebody asked if there is a recording. Absolutely, they are uploaded to our YouTube channel. So just go to YouTube, search Adored Beast Apothecary, and you will find all the recordings of our Ask Julie Anything, as well as lots of recordings in regards to all our products. There's some interviews with you and Rodney Habib, all kinds of different stuff in there.
Okay. And
Okay,
all the question, all these new ones that I've done, like these 5 episodes, they're loaded up into YouTube, aren't they?
they are absolutely, and this one will be there tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, thanks everyone. Have a great night.
See you. Thanks for joining us.